Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, the team prepares for their final game of the 2022 season against the Kansas City Chiefs at Allegiant Stadium on Saturday. We'll go over the injury report. We'll pass on some NFL nuggets. Plus, what will I be looking for Saturday's game? Your calls and texts will close out the show. It's all coming up on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, January 6, 2023.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen each and every day. Remember, you can find the Locked On Raider podcast free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Thanks to my guy Ari, doing a fantastic job making sure we're up on YouTube each and every day, and the show continues to grow, right? The subscriptions continue to grow, and Ari's doing a fantastic job. Definitely appreciate him. At Ari Produces on Twitter. You can check him out. Today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast is brought to you by Betonlinenet. They got you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Betonline.net. That is where the game starts. Before we get into today's show, I did want to shout out to Damar Hamlin, Bills safety, who went down on Monday Night Football. Bills in Cincinnati. He's in the Cincinnati hospital right now in critical condition, but he's starting to get motor skills back. To find out that he awoke and actually was communicating by way of writing down words on a like a little notepad or a chalkboard and said, "Did we win the game?" I thought that was really great, and it made me laugh, even though it's not a laughing matter, but just made me laugh to know that he was trying to communicate, and then one of the first things he wanted to know was, did we win the game? So he's not out of the woods yet. He's got a long ways to go, but just to know that it sounds like he's getting a little bit better is all that you can ask for, right? Just give him a chance, and that's what he's been given. All the fine folks that did all the work there on Monday night in Cincinnati when they rushed onto the field and gave him an opportunity to be where he's at right now is great. So it sounds like he's improving. So prayers, thoughts are still with him and the family as everyone continues to move forward and have business as usual when it comes to the NFL. Speaking of business as usual, let's go ahead and jump into segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. First of all, on Thursday, the NFL put out a statement about the Bills and Bengals game. It will not be played. They said that the Bills-Bengal game will not be finished and the AFC Championship game may be played at a neutral site. Now, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a bunch of different scenarios. Not going to go over every one of them because it would take too long, but the playoffs supposed to be proceeding as scheduled. It's going to sound like everything is business as usual as I was kind of reading through everything that the NFL put out. The Chiefs, they have an opportunity to win the number 1 seed in a first-round bye if they beat the Raiders on Saturday. So that's something that the Raiders could be playing for. A little bit of extra motivation come Saturday at Allegiant Stadium is to stop the Chiefs from getting that number 1 spot. The Bills, Bengals, they both have wins over Kansas City, but the Chiefs are now in position to get that top seed. So just remember there's something for the Raiders to play for, a little extra motivation if they didn't already have enough with it being an AFC West division title. Let me go over the final injury report for the week. On Thursday, we got the injury report, and not too much different than Wednesday's. Did not participate. Darian Butler, he's dealing with a concussion. He has been ruled out for Saturday's game against the Chiefs, and Josh Jacobs is questionable. He was limited on Tuesday, did not participate on Wednesday and Thursday, and is questionable for the game. He was dealing with the hip and oblique injury, and now personal, just kind of taking some time away. So I'm assuming that he's going to play on Saturday, but we really won't know until 90 minutes before the game when it comes down to actives and inactives. Guys that were full, everybody. Tyler Hall, the cornerback, dealing with the foot injury, wasn't listed on Tuesday or Wednesday, full participant on Thursday. Running back Zamir White, ankle injury, full participant all week long. So if Josh Jacobs can't go, and even if Josh Jacobs can go, I do expect to see a lot of Zamir White on Saturday versus Kansas City. Quarterback Jarrett Stidham dealing with the right elbow injury, limited on Tuesday, full participant on Wednesday and Thursday, so he's going to go. A.J. Cole, he was dealing with the illness on Tuesday. He was limited Wednesday and Thursday, full participant. He'll be good to go. Devontae Adams, also with the illness, limited on Tuesday, full on Wednesday, full on Thursday. He'll go. I don't know how long he'll be out there, but he'll be out there. Linebacker Curtis Bolton, dealing with a shin injury, full on Tuesday, full on Wednesday, full on Thursday. Yes, he is good to go. So that's the injury report as far as the Raiders are concerned. For the Chiefs, only one guy's ruled out. That's wide receiver Sky Moore. He's got a hand injury. Didn't participate on Tuesday. Was limited on Wednesday. Did not participate on Thursday. He is out. They have 4 guys that are questionable. That's cornerback L'Jarius Sneed dealing with a hip injury. Also guard Joe Thuney dealing with an ankle injury. Kicker Harrison Butker dealing with a back injury, and then wide receiver McCole Hardman with the pelvis injury, returned from IR. He's questionable, so I do think he'll give it a go. But that's it for the injury report when it comes to Kansas City. Again, you'll find out who's out who's out when it comes to about 90 minutes before kickoff on Saturday. I also wanted to go over some nuggets. I always get these emails from NFL Communications. It always says like what to look for this week, what to look for next week, whatever the case is, what to look for week 18 when it comes to the Raiders. And I thought it was pretty cool. First one, it's called Ridiculous Receivers, talking about Davante Adams. Says Davante Adams leads the league this season with 14 touchdown catches, ranks third with 1,443 receiving yards, and ranks 10th with 95 receptions. With a touchdown reception against Kansas City on Saturday, Adams, who totaled a career-high 18 touchdown receptions in 2020, can become the 5th player ever with at least 15 touchdown receptions in multiple seasons. Each of the previous 4 to do so are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jerry Rice did it 5 times with San Francisco. Randy Moss 4 times with Minnesota and New England. Marvin Harrison twice with the Colts. T.O. with San Francisco and Dallas did it twice. And Davante Adams so far has done it once with Green Bay and could do it again. He has 14 touchdowns going into the game, the season finale on Saturday, against the Chiefs. Also, when it comes to Davante Adams, with 5 catches on Saturday, Adams can also become the 3rd player ever with at least 100 catches and 1,300 receiving yards in 3 or more consecutive seasons, joining Pro Football Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison, 4 consecutive seasons from 1999 to 2002, and Antonio Brown, 3 from 2013 to 2015. So that's the nuggets right there for Davante Adams. A little bit extra motivation. Again, I don't think these guys really need motivation to go out and play a football game, but if they're looking for a little bit of something to kind of push them over the edge, maybe a little nugget like that could help out. Also, as it pertains to Josh Jacobs and Davante Adams, and they've really been the two that have been on the really good side of all these NFL nuggets all year long. It says terrific teammates. Running back Josh Jacobs leads the league this season with 1,608 rushing yards, while wide receiver Davante Adams ranks 3rd with 1,443 receiving yards. If Adams records 57 receiving yards against Kansas City, the Raiders will become the 5th team ever with both a 1,500-yard rusher and a 1,500-yard receiver in the same season. Think about that. 1,500 yards is nothing to shake a stick at, and they have 2 of them. One by way of the ground and one by way of the air, right? Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs. The teams with both 1,500-yard rushers and 1,500-yard receivers in the same season in NFL history, well, the 99 Colts, Edgar and James and Marvin Harrison. The 95 Lions, Barry Sanders and Herman Moore. 95 Cowboys, Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin. The 91 Cowboys, Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin. And 2022 Raiders, Josh Jacobs and Davante Adams. Davante Adams just needs 57 yards to be that 1,500-yard receiver. So a couple cool nuggets right there I thought were interesting to pass along. I always like that. It's always, for me, it gives me a little something extra to watch when I'm watching the game. I'm like, wait, hold on. How many yards does this guy need? How many more catches does this guy need? It's just what I do. I just like to do that. I don't know. But what else will I be looking for coming up on Saturday at Allegiant Stadium as the Raiders close out the season? We'll talk about it coming up in segment number 2 after I tell you about Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is daily fantasy that's made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. And the beautiful thing about it, there's no competing against other people. It's just you versus projections available. And they've got every sport: NFL, NBA, NHL, PGA, college football. Of course, it's bowl season, the playoffs. Actually, the national championship game, is on Monday. College basketball, women's college basketball. They've got every kind of sport that you can imagine. They've got available at Prize Picks. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals. Currently operational in over 30 states and in Canada. What you got to do right now, download the Prize Pick app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. You deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. You deposit $50, you guessed it, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget, use the promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for instant deposit match up to $100. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. What will I be looking for in Week 18 action against the Kansas City Chiefs? This will be the last time I do this for the 2020 season. It gets wrapped up on Saturday. Then we're going to have a big lull until it's time for the 2023 season, the offseason. Of course, we'll fly through the offseason. Of course, the playoffs will happen. The Super Bowl will happen, free agency, the draft, all that good stuff. And before you know it, we'll be talking about training camp, preseason, and football games again in 2023. But this will be the last time that we're talking about what I'll be looking for in a game as the season gets wrapped up. So we got to start out with the quarterback, right? Jarrett Stidham getting his second career start, of course, against the 49ers and that number one ranked defense. He had a hell of a day, right? Over 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. The only problem is he had 2 interceptions. And some could say, well, they weren't his fault. The one got batted at the line of scrimmage. Another time, Nick Bosa went flying into him and the ball got batted. It doesn't matter. The ball is in his hand, and then it was intercepted. So he did come up with 2 interceptions. So as far as Jarrett Stidham goes, what I'll be looking for, I don't think that he's going to be able to duplicate the numbers. I mean, just to say, I want to see the same that he did on Sunday against San Francisco, that's hard. It's hard to throw for 350-plus yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't care who you are. So I'm not expecting the same numbers, but I do want to see him run the offense with confidence, with control, build off of what he did on Sunday, right? Just show him that it's not too big for him. Right, and now the Kansas City Chiefs, they have some film on them. And I know it's only a one-game sample size, but there's film on them. So there's going to be adjustments made by the defense. So how does Jarrett Stidham adjust? How do the Raiders adjust to a team now having some film on Jarrett Stidham and what he can do? So run the offense with confidence and control, build off what he did Week 17 versus San Francisco, protect the ball and protect himself. I think protecting himself might even be a little bit more important than protecting the ball. And why I say that is he's got a history of being banged up and injured. When he was in New England, he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Tom Brady. At least that's what they tried to tell us, right? The problem is he was injured. He got himself injured when he was at Baylor. He's been injured, but, that's what he is. And he was on the injury report earlier this week with the right elbow injury. He plays like a tough dude, which is great. You want a tough guy, but he also has to be smart because he is the most valuable player on the field, the quarterback. You've got to be able to be available. And in New England, he wasn't available. The Raiders went out and traded for him, brought him in. He obviously understands McDaniel's offense, but if he's not available, he's not going to do any good for the Raiders. And he's also a free agent at the end of the season. Of course, this will be the final game, but once the league year is over, he's a free agent. He's got to show and prove to the Raiders that he's valuable enough to bring back. I don't know what capacity that is because I don't know what the Raiders are going to do yet in the offseason. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that, what they do at that quarterback position, but he's got to show that he's going to be available. He's already proven that he's a good backup. Can he be a consistent backup because he's healthy? That's what goes into protecting himself. So he's got to protect the ball, and he's got to protect himself. And then I want to see how the players play around for him, play for him. They played with a sense of urgency Week 17 against the 49ers. Every player I talked to in the locker room following the game, they were all Team Jarrett Stidham. They were all there for him, right? They had his back. I want to see if they do that again, knowing the season's going to get wrapped up. This is the final one of the 2022 season. So that'll be interesting as well. As far as the defense goes, just play with some pride, man. Travis Kelsey, they did a really good job against Travis Kelsey Week 5 between the 20s. But once the Chiefs got to the red zone, they gave up 4 touchdown catches to Travis Kelsey. Like, nobody saw that Travis Kelsey was there. Nobody thought that, Patrick Mahomes might want to throw the ball to him in the end zone. They've got to do a better job with Travis Kelsey in the red zone where he's most dangerous. Honestly, I don't care how many yards he gets between the 20s. You got to worry about him in the red zone. That's where he's at his most dangerous. So play with some pride. Be aware of where Travis Kelsey is when they get to the red zone. Make the game difficult for the Chiefs. They got a lot riding on this game, man. They want that number 1 seed, and they would love to get it by way of the Raiders, by going to Allegiant Stadium, Raiders' house, and taking it over, winning the game, going away, right? How many times have the Chiefs blown out the Raiders in Kansas City or at Allegiant Stadium? They've done it plenty of times. Last year, remember how bad it was both times that they played them? It was awful. They just did whatever they wanted to. The defense has got to make it difficult on Patrick Mahomes, got to make it difficult on Travis Kelsey, got to make it difficult on Andy Reid in general to go and get that W. You know that they're going to go to the playoffs. You know they want that number 1 seed. It'd be great to see the Raiders spoil that and get that W, finish the 2022 season on a high note. And also, defensively, I'd like to see Max Crosby get home a couple times. He hasn't got a sack in a couple games. He's already at a career high for sacks with 11.5. I'd like to see him get a couple more, right? End the season with like 13 or 14. That would be fine. Even if he just evens that number out to 12 and gets a half a sack. But who wants to get a half a sack, right? So, if he gets to, 12, 13, that'd be great. Just continue. It's a career high already. His career high before that was 10. He got that his rookie year. He's at 11.5. Go ahead and end the season with 13, right? He was a dominant force Week 5 against Kansas City. Go out there and be that guy one more time and just continue to pad those numbers that he's having. And I know it's not about numbers. It's not about individual stats. It's a team game. The ultimate team game is the NFL and football, but why not go ahead and pad those stats? Matter of fact, my last few nuggets here in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast are all about padding stats as well. Right? Again, I mean, there's nothing wrong with going ahead and having a hell of a day or having a hell of a season and just hanging your hat like, hey, the season didn't go the way it was supposed to, but this was a pretty cool little feather in the cap. And one of those feathers in the cap is for Josh Jacobs. I've been talking about him for a while now. I'd like to see him get enough rushing yards to give him the rushing title. He's about 200 yards up on Nick Chubb, who's in second right now, and a little bit over 200 yards when it comes to Derrick Henry, who's in third. But we know with Derrick Henry, 200 yards is nothing to get. And we know how important that game is, Jacksonville and Tennessee. So he's going to be amped up, ready to go. Ryan Tannehill's not going to be the quarterback, so there's going to be a lot of the run game. I can see Derrick Henry going for 2 bills easily. And Nick Chubb has those skills as well, right? I mean, Cleveland is playing the Steelers. There's a chance that the Steelers could still sneak into the playoffs, so I can see Nick Chubb getting the ball early and often. I don't know how many yards Josh Jacobs is going to get, but I'd love to see him get enough yards where it just kind of pads the stats so he gets that rushing title with the Raiders. I think that would be awesome. He's already over 1,600 yards. Why don't he go ahead and put up another, 75, 80 yards? Why not? I wouldn't be mad at that. And then, of course, Devontae Adams, go get those 5 catches, at least 57 yards to get to 100 catches and 1,500 yards. That'd be fantastic. Something I was talking about in segment number 1, giving the Raiders a 1,500-yard rusher and a 1,500-yard receiver in the same season. That'd be awesome as well. And finally, special teams. I've been saying it for, probably like 6 or 7 weeks now. It hasn't happened. Amir Abdullah. Hopefully he gets a couple return opportunities. He didn't get any return opportunities week 17 against San Francisco. And I'll tell you this story real quick. I just knew. In my mind, you know how you think and you see things play out and you just know how it's going to shake out and work. I just knew when the Raiders took San Francisco to overtime in week 17 and the Raiders won the coin toss and they were going to get the ball. In my head, this is how it was playing out. They were going to kick off. Amir Abdullah was going to catch it and take it to the house, and that was going to be the kick return that I've been calling all season, that I felt like he was going to break one and take it to the house. I just knew that that's how it was going to shake out. I was going to go to the radio. I was going to go to the podcast on Monday and say, there it is. That's the one I've been calling, and not only did he take it to the house, it was a game winner at the same time. Now, it didn't shake out like that. But in my mind, it did. In my mind, I guess imagination is a hell of a thing, right? I just knew that was what was going to happen. I was going to go down to the locker room, talk to Amir Abdullah, and say, man, I've been calling it for weeks. Man, how'd it feel to get in the end zone? But again, it didn't shake out like that. But that's what I thought. So this is the last time. This is the last hurrah. This is his last opportunity. But, again, against San Francisco, they didn't even give him the opportunity to return the ball. Every ball went sailing right over his head, and the Raiders had to start their drives on the 25. I'm just hoping he gets at least 2 opportunities to try to return the kick. If he does, I feel pretty good about his chances. Like I said, I definitely believe he's going to take one to the house. I've been saying it for a while. It feels like he's really close, right, to taking one to the house. Well, there's no other games after this one, so you better get it done, brother. So that'll be my final nugget. That's the final thing I'll be looking for on Saturday, Chiefs and Raiders at Allegiant Stadium. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts to close out the week, 707-654-4693. I'll tell you about them, and I'll get to them after I tell you about Betonlinenet, your number 1 source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every pro and amateur league out there, pro football, college bowl season, basketball. They've got it all at Betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, and, well, clearly you do, you can find those as well at Betonline.net. They're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting information on. All you got to do is head to the website today on your laptop or your mobile device to learn about more. BetOnline.net. That is where the game starts. Here we go, Raider Nation, segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a call from Vader Raider in the 303. He's calling to give his thoughts on the quarterback situation that the Raiders may be facing this offseason, also the draft and free agency thoughts. A lot of offseason talk here from Vader Raider in the 303.
Q, Raider Nation. It's your boy Vader Raider. First of all, Q, thank you for everything that you do for the nation. Hope you and yours had a wonderful holiday season. Hope Raider Nation had a great holiday season as well. Happy New Year to everyone. Q, I'm going to offer up my suggestion for what we should do at the quarterback position and in general. I really think that Ziegler and McDaniels and Davis are going to go after Tom Brady. I really believe that that's probably going to be at the end of the day, that's going to be the direction they head, just simply because the Super Bowl is in Vegas next year, and Mark Davis is going to want a home game. I think you keep Stidham, you sign him to a new deal, you get him under contract and say, hey, look, Stiddy, when Tom's done, you're the man. And then what you do is hopefully Derek Carr will agree to a trade, and then hopefully we can get some good compensation for that. And then, I know a lot of people may not like this idea, but Will Levis looks like could be the man. I mean, he looks like he's a smart young kid that McDaniels can teach the offense to. And then Q, we have the guy for now, we have the bridge, and we have the future. And then in the draft and in free agency, we make Josh our priority, get him under contract, give him what he wants. Okay, and then, in the draft and in free agency, we build our offensive line and get a defense for Patrick Graham. We get every piece we need on defense, the linebacking position, defensive line, secondary help. I mean, we need corners. That should be our main priority going forward. And I think if we do that, Q, we're going to find that, next year is going to be, next year could be successful. And plus, giving Davante Adams the greatest quarterback of all time, I mean, I don't know about anybody else. I mean, he's already staying, according to reports. But I think Davante would be pretty happy catching passes from the GOAT. I mean, especially the guy that won 6 rings in this offense. So that's just my take on it, Q. I don't know. I think in a perfect world that happens. Of course, it's the Raiders, so we always get hosed in the end, I think, sometimes. But all right, Raider Nation. Hope you're having a good start to your new year, and have a great, great week. Raider, out.
Thanks so much, my man. And it's funny, I could see it happening, really, just how you shook it out like that, right? Re-sign Stidham, bring in Brady, draft Will Levis, sign Josh Jacobs, build the offensive line and the defensive free agency and the draft as well. I can see it shaking out just like that. And really, I know a lot of people, a lot of Raider fans in particular, aren't too gung-ho when it comes to Tom Brady. But the one thing that I get excited about, if they were to sign Tom Brady in free agency in the offseason, that guarantees, as far as I'm concerned, that guarantees that they're going to build up that offensive line. That guarantees that they're going to build the defense. And if it takes bringing in Tom Brady to finally address a defense that hasn't been addressed in years, and they build that offensive line back up to what it was before they dismantled it a couple seasons ago, I'm all good with that. I really am. Tom Brady's not going to run around the yard. He's not as mobile as even Jarrett Stidham, so he's not going to have that part of his game. But he's still a damn good quarterback, and I think Davante Adams would be just fine with him throwing passes to him. So I can see it shaking out, Vader Raider, exactly how you just described it. So thanks so much for that call. I appreciate you. Next up is a text from Raider M. She says, "Hey, Q, I heard the news about Damar Hamlin waking up and holding hands with his family. I'm so happy for him, his family, his team, and his sport. I love this sport, and I truly appreciate all the players, no matter the team. It's crazy the last week is already upon us. I hope the Raiders show out for their last week." Again, that's Raider M. And, yeah, man, I mean, the news about Damar Hamlin is fantastic. Absolutely is fantastic. And, again, just like I started the show, he's not out of the woods, but it's a good sign. It's a better sign, right? And I don't know, what led to the fact that he's able to be where he's at right now, waking up and communicating with his family and squeezing the hands of his holding hands with his family members. I don't know what all led into that, but I'm just happy that he had a lot of assistance. He had the right medical team around him. They got to him right on time when he was on the field on Monday night. I mean, they gave him an opportunity to be where he's at right now, and that's all you can ask for, and I'm so happy that is the case. So thank you so much for that text. I appreciate you. Next up, got a call from a guy I haven't heard from in a minute, T3 Raider Facts. He's calling to share a history lesson about the Raiders Chiefs that goes back to 2014, Thursday Night Football, and the first win of Derek Carr's career. Here he is, T3 Raider Facts.
Hey, Q, this is T3 Raider Facts. I normally call them about five quick hits, but I wanted to share with the Raider Nation a special story which shows you that anything's possible during Raiders Chiefs week. And I'll take you back to November 20th, 2014. Derek Carr's first win with the Raiders happened in a 24-20 win over the Chiefs after they had scored a touchdown with 1:42 to play. And while save is a baseball stat, Raiders defensive end Justin Tuck should be credited with one. His quick thinking saved the day for the Raiders on this Thursday night, because with the Chiefs driving and facing a 3rd and 6 at the Oakland 45 with 49 seconds to go, C.O. Moore burst through to sack Alex Smith for a 7-yard loss. But then Moore kept running, and he celebrated, and he danced, and he took it all the way to the Kansas City 25-yard line. While Kansas City got back to the line of scrimmage with the clock running down, Moore continued his celebration, and Khalil Mack joined in, and the Chiefs were about to snap the ball with 28 seconds to go, and Smith was about to either get a free play against a 9-man defense or 5 free yards and a clock stoppage. Enter Justin Tuck, who called the timeout before lighting up Mack and Moore on the field. On the next snap, 4th and 13, Smith's deep ball to Frankie Hammond fell incomplete, and that was the ball game, just barely. In the locker room, Charles Woodson and Justin Tuck later threatened bodily harm to Moore, and had the Raiders lost, they were joking. Maybe, said Moore, you know how they say, act like you've been there before? Well, I hadn't. Well, the Raiders got lucky. They won their first win of only 3 wins that season. But anything's possible, Raiders versus Chiefs. So let's take it. Let's finish out the season strong. Go Raiders.
Thank you so much for the call, my man. I remember that game like it was yesterday. I still remember exactly where I watched that game. I was in Texas, and I watched it at the Buffalo Wild Wing on Thursday Night Football, and it was pouring rain at the Coliseum, and I remember that was the Latavius Murray game as well. That was the game that he broke out, and the Tay Train was born, right? He had a couple touchdowns, a couple long touchdown runs against Kansas City, and everyone realized, like, hey, man, this is a damn good running back. And I remember the Raiders winning that game, and that little hang-up at the end where Khalil Mack and C.O. Moore did what they did, and Justin Tuck had to bail him out. I remember that. I remember even Khalil Mack talking after the game when I forget, somebody said, I don't know what they said, but Khalil Mack was like, basically he told reporters, like, yeah, they screwed up, right? Whatever Justin Tuck said, they screwed up. But, yeah, I remember that game like it was yesterday. The Raiders and Chiefs always have some crazy games, especially on Thursday Night Football. They have some real crazy games. But this is a Saturday game. It's a primetime game, and it's wrapping up the season. And the Chiefs, they got the number 1 seed on the line. So I would love to see the Raiders spoil that number 1 seed and their wishes for that number 1 seed. Thanks for the call. It's good to hear from you, my man. Appreciate you. Next up, I got a text from Raider Mike in Iowa. He says, Q, it's Mike from Iowa. Just wanted to shoot you an apology before the season is over. After the Saints game, I left a long message basically accusing the coaches of tanking. Through the rest of the season, listening to you, I picked up on the fact that drives you nuts, people accusing the Raiders of intentionally tanking. I see what you mean after watching the rest of the season. They weren't tanking. They just didn't have things put together yet. I apologize for accusing them of tanking and also apologize to you for venting my frustrations after that game. In the future, I'll try and keep my comments neutral or positive. I've been wanting to apologize for several weeks now. Thanks for everything you do. I'm looking forward to seeing Stidham play again on Saturday and see what they do in the offseason. That's Raider Mike in Iowa. And the thing about it is, thank you for the text, by the way. The thing about it is, so many people get super emotional right after games, and that used to be me, Raider Mike, so I totally understand where you're coming from. I used to be the guy I wanted to be around after the games because I wasn't even really emotional, like, lashing out. I just was in a bad, foul mood. And so who wants to be around that all the time? And so at some point, once I realized that, life is larger than a football game and that these guys are going to be all right, these guys, even though they lose and they might get upset and be quiet in the locker room, they're going to go home to their family. And for the most part, they're going to be cool and chill and realize that the sun's going to come out tomorrow. Right. And so I just kind of, I'm clearly not that dude anymore, and it's so much easier. So, I get it. Believe me, you're not the only one who has vented frustrations, by way of a long call or multiple, tweets or direct messages. And, believe me, I get it all the time, which is cool because it goes with the territory. So I totally understand, where you're coming from. But the thing about tanking, like some teams, they can set themselves up. The front office can set themselves up where, they don't have the necessary weapons and tools to get it done like they need to get it done. But, it's those guys in the locker room, they sure aren't taking. And the other thing is in the NFL, it really, how many teams are one player away? Like if, hey, you're going to get the number 1 pick, you're going to end up getting the best player available, whatever. It's, the best maybe quarterback out there. Most teams, especially that are picking like that, they're not one player away from putting them over the top. Now, it's always nice to get a blue chip player, a quality player, but you've got to be able to put everything together as well. And so that whole tanking stuff doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I understand, especially with the performance that they had, it wasn't very good. Got time for a couple calls and texts. The next call will come from Jordan in Oregon. He's calling to talk about Tuesday's show where I was talking about Damar Hamlin and how he actually appreciates the show and the podcast. Here he is, Jordan in Oregon.
Hey, what's going on, Q? Jordan in Oregon calling in here. And mainly just wanted to wish you a happy new year. And just wanted to tell you I really appreciate the passionate podcast that you put out. And, I've been riding with you on this Locked On Raiders for pretty much since your first episode of taking it over from Bill, and I just wanted to say I got a lot of respect for you, man. And it got me thinking, listening to your, I guess it's Wednesday's edition here, is, just how much over the years I've really grown to respect you as a sports guy, but also just as a human being, and just how you handle, the last few years. There's been some tough things that have happened, and I've always appreciated that you've been able to really separate the two on times when it's necessary. And I really just got me thinking, man, as much respect as I got for you, I know there's thousands of others that do as well. And I appreciate you using your platform as a way to really inspire people and also, help people kind of get a reset sometimes, just to hear it from your perspective, and you're just very well spoken with it. That I just wanted to say thank you for using your platform in a way that can really change people's way of thinking, and just trying to really take the moment in and also appreciate our lives and what we all have in front of us, because as we all know, there's things that can happen that are just tough to deal with. And I just really appreciate how you've used your platform to inspire people. And yeah, man, Happy New Year to you. And I hope 23 can be an awesome year for our Raiders. I'm looking forward to everything with the pod. Peace out, bro.
Thank you, my man. I appreciate the kind words. And honestly, I try to grow as a person each day, right? I realize what's important and what isn't. And that situation with Damar Hamlin, when I saw him on the field there in Cincinnati Monday Night Football, it just was like, whoa, man. It was one of those situations where I just expected him to get up, get on the stretcher, put a thumb up and say, hey, I'm okay. And when none of that happened, and when you saw the reactions of the players and how they were crying, and you knew that they couldn't play the game anymore, you knew how bad it was. So that show that I did on Tuesday was a must. If I didn't do that, I'd be angry at myself right now. I really would. And it was funny because I really thought about it multiple times. Like, should I do this? Should I do that? Like, I was almost unsure of myself. And then I just said, you know what? What would Q do? And I just rolled with it, right? So I started thinking, like, wait a minute. This is definitely a show that I would do. So let me go ahead and knock it out. So that's how that all came about. But, Jordan, thank you so much for the call, my man. Hopefully you had a great New Year's. I do appreciate you. Got a text from North Logan Raider. He's saying, Q, so Tom Brady is a GOAT. However, I feel like it would be a bad choice regardless of him knowing McDaniel's scheme. For the reason he's a pocket passer, and with our horrible pass blocking offense, I feel like he will have the same problems as Carr. What we need in a quarterback is what we saw with Stidham. Mobile quarterback, because our offensive line can't run block, or can run block but can't pass block to save their life. That is the style quarterback we need, is a mobile quarterback. That's from North Logan Raider, and I don't disagree with you as far as a mobile quarterback. I think that that's definitely what the Raiders need at some point. But like I said earlier, when it comes to Tom Brady, if you bring in Tom Brady, you already know that he's not a mobile quarterback. So that means you have to beef up that offensive line. And I just don't know, unless it's – this is the thing. This is the scenario. If they don't land Tom Brady, because I do believe they're going to go hot and heavy after Tom Brady. If they don't land him, I'm not really too high on Jimmy G, so I'm good if they just pass him completely. If they don't land Brady and they don't go after Jimmy G, and it's Stidham and other, like they draft a young quarterback, I think Stidham will be the starting quarterback in 2023. At least he'll be in competition with some rookie. But Devontae Adams is going to have a say in that as well, as he's already let it be known that he wants to be with the Raiders. He's got a contract for multiple years, so, really he can't force his way out. But you want to keep him happy. I mean, that's your stud. That's your number one wide receiver. You want him happy. He doesn't want to catch passes from just anybody. So I think based off what we saw on Sunday against the 49ers, he'd be good with catching passes from Stidham. I just think that it's going to eventually be Tom Brady. They're going to build up that offensive line and go from there, and then keep Stidham around as a backup. And, 1 to 2 years in, maybe Stidham will take over as the starting quarterback, or maybe they'll have some rookie that they've groomed. But I just kind of think that that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a veteran quarterback, probably Tom Brady, Stidham, and then other as the quarterbacks that are in the 2023 season. But look, I'm only talking on January 6th. The offseason hasn't even happened, so we can't really call it like that just yet. But that's where I think that it's going to go. So we'll see about that. We'll take one more call. I'm getting a little greedy, but I'll take one more call. Emilio from Rancho Cordova, he's going to close this out. He's calling to talk about Jarrett Stidham in the offseason, what he thinks the Raiders should do. Emilio, Rancho Cordova, here he is.
Hey, what's up, Q? This is Amelia from Rancho Cordova. I was just calling because, watching Jared Stidham this last game, I really think that he could be the starter for next year. He's starting to grow on me. I like his swagger. I like his toughness, and I like his mobility that he has. And we also got to remember too, everybody's talking about bringing Tom Brady for a couple years, or bring Tom Brady in and rock out Kelsey and stuff like that. But let's not forget that Stidham did play and was under Tom Brady for a couple years before he left the Tampa Bay, so he has learned under him for a few years, and he knows the system pretty well. We'll have to see how he does on Sunday, but I feel like this off season, if what the Raiders should do is keep Stiddy and get another quarterback that they can sign in free agency, and make a QB competition, and whoever wins gets a starting job. But just based off Sunday's performance, he did really good, and I feel like if he does just as good or even better this Sunday, that he deserves a opportunity to at least compete with somebody to be the starting QB. I don't know your thoughts on that, Q, but continue to do your thing. And I also hope that DeMar, heals up and has a speedy recovery from this. And, go Raiders.
Thank you so much for the call, my man. And your plan of having Stidham compete is the right answer. Again, kind of going back to what I was telling North Logan Raider, that's the right answer if they don't bring in a veteran. If they don't bring in Tom Brady, maybe Jimmy G, I'll throw him out there because his name is floating out there, but I think it's Tom Brady or bust. I really do. That's just what my gut tells me. If they don't bring in Brady, Stidham will be in a competition, right? He could be in a competition for the starting job. They have to re-sign him. He's a free agent, but I do think he'll be in line to be, in competition to start. I just don't want to get overexcited about one performance that we saw Stidham have against the 49ers, and I know that they're the number one defense, but one, Stidham has a history of being injury-prone, and he also, he's like I said, it's only a small sample size. There was no film on him. So let's see what he looks like on Saturday versus Kansas City before we start anointing him as the next starting quarterback, or he should be that guy. But thank you so much for that call, my man. I do appreciate you, and that's going to do it for today's show. A little bit overtime on today's show, and I know Ari's going to probably shoot me a text where he's a little angry at me, but that's all right. It's all right. We're going to be all right, Ari. I appreciate you. Check out Ari on Twitter at Ari Produces. He's making sure that we're up on YouTube each and every day, and I always thank you so much for making the show, the Locked On Raiders podcast, your first listen each and every day. Remember, you can find the show free and available on all platforms. Enjoy the game this weekend. We'll be back on Monday. It will be officially for the Raiders the offseason, and, well, we'll start talking about the offseason. We'll go over what we saw on Saturday, and like I said, we'll jump into the offseason. We'll do it starting on Monday. So, Raider Nation, enjoy Week 18. Enjoy the final game. Hopefully the Raiders beat the Chiefs and knock them off that perch so they're not the number one seed. But, again, whatever happens, we'll talk about it on Monday. So, until then, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.